Amnesty International South Africa has been admitted as a friend of the court in the DA's application to compel South African authorities to arrest Russian President Vladimir Putin if he attends next month's BRICS Summit. And for more on this, we're now joined by Shenilla Mohamed, the Executive Director for Amnesty International South Africa. And she joins us via our Zoom link. Shenilla, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. My first question to you, of course, we've seen the court outcome today saying that that affidavit of President Cyril Ramaphosa saying the reason as to why he would not actually make this public in the first place. What are your thoughts on that court judgment? Of course, that affidavit now being made public.
Evening, Bali, and evening to your viewers. Well, obviously, we are really happy with the court decision to make that document public because, the people of South Africa have the right to know what the argument what argument the state is putting forward, for not complying with its obligations under international law, especially as South Africa is a member of the International Criminal Court and has ratified it, the Rome Statute. So it's really important that, they are open and transparent, and that today's court judgment has really paved the way for that. So it's important that, everyone gets to see what the argument is that South Africa is putting forward for not complying with its obligations under international law.
And Shenilla, you've also been admitted as a friend of the court in that matter that will be heard on Friday. Why are you in support of, the country taking that decision to actually arrest the president of Russia should he touch down on South African shores?
Well, in Bali, as Amnesty International, we are an organization that is really about holding states to account for their responsibilities under international law and also the laws of their own country. And I think that, what's really the reason that we've applied for to be admitted as amicus is really because, we as an independent organization really want, to offer our services to the court as a friend of the court to be able to provide information to the court around international justice, around South Africa's obligations under the international, under the ICC. But also, we want to tap into our research that has been done on the war in Ukraine, and really the evidence that we've gathered from the ground. I mean, Putin has been accused by the ICC of, war crimes against humanity. And I think that, it's really important that we take this seriously. And, we are very interested from an international law perspective, because we feel that South Africa really does have to adhere to what it signed up to when it signed up to the ICC. And, they should not be using political arguments as a reason not to comply with this warrant of arrest. They are obligated under international law to arrest Putin if he does come to South Africa for BRICS, and they should do that. They are obligated to arrest him and to hand him over to the International Criminal Court, and that is what, we would like to see South Africa doing. And this is why we have joined as amicus, really because of our expertise under international law, but also because of the research we've done on the ground in Ukraine.
Now, Shenilla, I'm sure you have taken a look in that document which has now been made public by the courts. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa stating there that should the country arrest the Russian president, would actually be declaring war onto South African shores. What do you make of that reasoning?
Well, I think, Mbali, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be very difficult for the court. This is just my view, to be able to look at that argument. And it'll be very interesting to see what the court actually does, because the court is a legal organization, and, it's really there to interpret law, whether it be domestic law or international law. And I think, what President Putin is putting down is more of a political argument. And of course, saying that, that it's the responsibility responsibility of the president and the government to protect the people of South Africa against this declaration of war. I think it'll be very interesting to see how the court interprets that. But, again, if that is the case, then, South Africa needs to then, discuss with the rest of the BRICS countries to see what solution they can find to this issue. Because, the minute that President Putin lands in South Africa is obligated under international law to arrest him and hand him over to the International Criminal Court. And if they don't do that, they are in violation of their obligations. And I don't think that it's a good look for South Africa. I mean, South Africa, has played a really important part, not only in the setting up of the ICC 20 years ago, but also when it comes to issues of international law, of human rights, etc. And not to forget that, it was these very, very institutions, well, maybe not the ICC, but other such institutions that really supported South Africa when South Africa was fighting for its own independence against apartheid. So even apartheid has been declared, a war against humanity, a crime against humanity. So it's important for South Africa really to take its membership of the ICC seriously and to really do what is required of it under international law. And failure to do so will really be in violation of South Africa's obligations. And I think, this argument of war is going to be a difficult one, for the courts to actually look at, because it doesn't have any standing in law.
And now, Shenilla, of course, we know that your organization will be part of that court matter that will be heard on Friday. What can we expect in terms of your arguments, in terms of, why you think this arrest should happen, should the president of Russia come to South Africa?
Well, Mbali, we will be putting forward the argument from an international law perspective. So we'll be looking at interpretations of various clauses of international law. We'll be looking at, why South Africa is obligated to comply, with the ICC warrant. And really, we will be also putting forward, as I said earlier, evidence from our research on the ground. And all of this is to help the court to really come to a decision that makes sense, under international law and under domestic law. So basically, we have lawyers who will be representing us in court on Friday, and their job will be to put forward the various interpretations of international law and the arguments, and counter arguments that will really support, the call that we've been making to South Africa to fulfill its obligations and arrest President Putin when he does come into the country.
And should the president of Russia actually touch down and come to South Africa, are you not concerned of the implications as an organization?
Well, obviously we are. I mean, clearly, as Amnesty International, we are anti-war. So, we are not really, saying that, by arresting Putin, that South Africa should go to war. What we're saying to South Africa is really look at your obligations under international law and under domestic law, but also under the African Union law. I mean, South Africa is also a signatory to that. And, and also, then take a decision that is based on that. And, if South Africa feels that they are unable to do this, then they have to enter into a negotiation with BRICS, which I understand is happening at the moment. In order to find a solution to this. And, I know it's not so easy for South Africa to withdraw the invitation, because it's an invitation by BRICS and not South Africa. But at the end of the day, South Africa still has to face up to the fact that it is obliged to uphold its, its obligations under international law.
Right.
And so, again, it's a difficult argument to put forward to say that we're not going to do this because there's been a declaration of war.
All right then, Shenilla, thank you so much for your time. That is Shenilla Mohamed, the Executive Director for Amnesty International South Africa.